Imagine you step outside and come face to face with a saber-toothed cat as big as a car. Next door, a mammoth trumpets loudly, shaking the ground. In your pool, a shark the size of a bus is circling. Sounds like a crazy dream, right? But millions of years ago, this was everyday life in North America. Let's talk about a world where monsters weren't just real. They ruled the land. Long before there were not cities, cars, or even people, North America was a wild place, full of incredible creatures. These weren't your everyday animals. They were bigger, stronger, and sometimes a whole lot scarier than anything we see today. Let's take a journey back in time and meet some of these amazing prehistoric animals that once called North America home. First up, let's talk about the dire wolf. Now, you might think wolves today are pretty big, but the dire wolf makes them look like puppies. These super wolves were about 25% bigger than today's wolves and weighed as much as a grown person. Imagine a wolf the size of your dad running around in the forest. Dire wolves hunted in packs, just like modern wolves, but they could take down much bigger prey. But if you think the dire wolf was scary, wait until you hear about the next animal on our list, the short-faced bear. This wasn't your average teddy bear. The short-faced bear was the biggest bear that ever lived in North America. It stood up to 12 feet tall when on its hind legs. That's twice as tall as a basketball hoop. These giant bears could run fast too, chasing down their prey with ease. Their huge size meant they could bully other predators away from their kills. Imagine trying to have a picnic with one of these around. Now, let's dive into the water, but be careful, there's something big waiting for us. Meet Megalodon, the biggest shark that ever lived. This massive predator makes today's great white sharks look like goldfish. Megalodon could grow up to 60 feet long. That's longer than a school bus. Its mouth was big enough to swallow a car whole, and its teeth were the size of your hand. Megalodon hunted whales and other large sea creatures, ruling the oceans for millions of years. But not all the giant creatures in prehistoric North America lived in the water or on land. Some ruled the skies. Say hello to Teratornis, a bird so big it makes eagles look tiny. With a wingspan of up to 12 feet, Teratornis was like a flying carpet with a beak and claws. These giant birds soared over the landscape, using their sharp eyes to spot prey from high above. While they couldn't carry off large animals, they were still fearsome predators for smaller creatures. Now, let's head back to land and meet a creature that might surprise you. The giant beaver. Forget about the cute little beavers you might see today. The giant beaver was the size of a bear. These enormous rodents could grow up to 8 feet long and weigh as much as 220 pounds. Giant beavers had huge front teeth, perfect for chomping down trees. While we're not sure if they built dams like modern beavers, they certainly would have made a big splash in prehistoric rivers. But not all the giant creatures in prehistoric North America were scary predators. Some were gentle giants, like the woolly mammoth. Woolly mammoths were like elephants, but bigger and much, much hairier. They could stand up to 14 feet tall at the shoulder and had enormous curved tusks that could grow up to 16 feet long. These fuzzy giants roamed across North America during the Ice Age, using their long tusks to dig for food under the snow and to fight off predators. Speaking of the Ice Age, let's meet another ice-loving creature, the giant ground sloth. Now, when you think of sloths, you probably imagine slow, small animals that live in trees. But the giant ground sloth was nothing like that. These enormous creatures could stand up to 20 feet tall on their hind legs. That's as tall as a 2-story house. Giant ground sloths used their long claws to reach high into trees for food. Despite their size, they were plant eaters, munching on leaves and fruits. But those claws could also be used for defense if a predator got too close. Now, let's gallop over to meet a familiar animal's ancient relative, the American mastodon. Mastodons were cousins of mammoths and elephants, but they were built for life in the forest. They were shorter and stockier than mammoths, with tusks that pointed straight forward instead of curving up. These forest giants used their tusks to strip bark from trees and to dig for tasty roots. They wandered through the woodlands of North America for millions of years, before disappearing about 11,000 years ago. Last but definitely not least, let's meet the king of prehistoric predators in North America, the saber-toothed cat. Saber-toothed cats were about the size of modern lions, but with one big difference: their enormous canine teeth. These sabers could grow up to 7 inches long, curving down from their upper jaws like daggers. These fearsome predators used their powerful legs to pounce on prey. pinning them down before delivering a deadly bite with those huge teeth. They were the top cats in prehistoric North America for millions of years. So, there you have it, a tour through the prehistoric nightmare land of North America. From giant wolves and bears to enormous beavers and sloths, this continent was once home to creatures that seem like they belong in fairy tales or monster movies. But here's the really amazing thing. All of these animals were real. They lived and breathed just like the animals we see today. They roamed the same lands where we now build our cities and play in our parks. While these prehistoric giants are now gone, they've left behind clues that help us understand what life was like millions of years ago. Scientists called paleontologists study the bones and fossils of these ancient creatures to learn about their lives and the world they lived in. Next time you're out in nature, take a moment to imagine what it might have been like when these giant beasts ruled the land. The peaceful forest you're walking through might once have echoed with the roars of saber-toothed cats or the trumpeting of mastodons. And remember, while prehistoric North America might seem like a scary place, it was home to an incredible variety of life. These amazing animals, big and small, all played important roles in their ancient ecosystems, just like the plants and animals in our world today. So the next time someone tells you that nature can be scary, you can tell them you should have seen it a million years ago.